There are a lot of questions that Batman fans like to debate, such as who is the Mask, Bruce Wayne or Batman? Could Batman beat Superman with enough prep time? While these questions are interesting, they don't interest me as much as the following one. What does it mean to be Batman? Welcome to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Andrew Boyd, and today I will be attempting to explain Batman Nightfall. It's a massive story divided into 3 parts, so we will likely need a couple videos to get through it. But before we dive in, let's talk a bit about the background of the story. In the 1990s, comic books were seeing a massive influx in the popularity of anti-heroes, such as Spawn, Venom, and the Punisher. These characters straddled the line between good and bad, often having no qualms about brutally murdering their villains while saying pithy one-liners. In a world where these type of characters were dominating the marketplace, people were beginning to question if old-fashioned heroes like Superman and Batman, who were usually written with strict moral codes preventing them from killing, had any place in a modern setting. The Superman comics chose to address and explore this by killing off the character and having several alternate versions of the character try to take over the mantle in the infamous Death and Return of Superman arc. At the same time that this arc was running, no really, it was the same time, and several characters in Nightfall can be seen wearing black armbands to memorialize the late Man of Steel. Writers of the line of Batman comics decided to take a less lethal approach and tell a massive story where Batman would be taken out of commission and replaced by a new Batman who would embody all of the concepts that fans were encouraging the original Batman to take on to show why they didn't work for the character. This massive story was told across several titles in the Batman line and also had versions written for novelization and radio, although we are obviously looking at the comics today. With this in mind, let's take a look at the prelude to Nightfall. In the prelude to the main Nightfall storyline, we are introduced to the secondary antagonist of the story, Bane. Although he has a lot of the most memorable moments in the story, it is important to remember he's not the main villain of the piece, and is mostly just there to get the real story in motion. Bane is the son of a revolutionary in the country of Santa Prisca. When the coup his father was involved with failed, Bane's pregnant mother was placed in prison so that her son could live out his father's sentence. Bane's mother dies in the prison while he's a young boy, and soon after he has a vision of his future self who tells him that he has the power to conquer the world if he can overcome his fear. At this moment, he sees a vision of a giant bat that haunts his dreams. Bane grows up in the brutal prison, becoming cruel and incredibly strong and intelligent. His cellmate, Bird, tells him about the city he came from, Gotham, and the bat-like creature who protects it. Bane vows to fulfill his destiny and break the bat. He is subjected to experiments with the chemical compound known as Venom that grants him even more incredible strength, and he soon escapes the prison with his loyal men, with plans of going to Gotham and developing a plan to destroy Batman. In Gotham, Batman has his hands full trying to balance his life as Bruce Wayne with his Batman activities. His girlfriend, Vicky Vale, has recently broken up with him, and Black Mask and his false face gang are burning down Wayne Enterprise buildings in order to drive down the stock price of Bruce's company. He is extremely burnt out and is having trouble keeping up with the demands of his double life. Tim Drake, the current Robin in this story, is balancing his life as a crime fighter with school and his wheelchair-bound father's recovery with the help of a doctor named Chandra Kinsolving. She is a gifted healer who Jack Drake remarks has an almost spiritual skill at healing. Jim Gordon is getting married to his old flame from Batman Year One, Sarah Essen, who hates the fact that Gordon has become so reliant on a vigilante. After an argument between Batman and Sarah on the roof of the GCPD about how he has drawn Jim into his lifestyle, she shoots the bat signal, causing it to crack, symbolizing how Batman's life is beginning to fall apart. In fact, if you look at the various covers of the Nightfall story, you see the bat symbol in the corner changes, tracking the state of Batman through the story. As an exhausted Batman fights crime in Gotham, Bane watches, trying to learn as much about his enemy as he can. Bruce Wayne has Lucius Fox hire a man named Jean-Paul Valley as a security guard at Wayne Enterprises. Jean-Paul is actually the vigilante Azrael, who was brainwashed and trained by a shadowy group called the Order of Saint Dumas to be the lethal sword of vengeance, using a method of hypnotic control called the System. Batman and Robin have taken him under their wing in order to help him overcome his programming and mold him into a less lethal hero. Batman becomes so burnt out from fighting crime that he actually passes out on the steps of the Batcave. In order to figure out what's wrong with him, he gets in touch with Dr. Kinsolving, who tells him that whatever is preventing him from sleeping is being worsened by his mind's refusal to admit there is an issue. Chandra and Bruce get along well, and both are struck by an immediate but unspoken attraction. She gives Bruce some sedatives, which makes him unavailable when Killer Croc begins attacking a mall. Robin has Jean-Paul disguise himself as Batman, and the two go after Croc. They struggle against Croc until Bane shows up, wanting to test his strength against Croc. He absolutely wrecks Croc with the help of his venom enhancements, and then goes after the two heroes. Once he gets a closer look at Jean-Paul in the Batsuit, he realizes it's not the real Batman and leaves, declaring that they're not worth his time. Bane continues spying on the real Batman, who is barely managing to stay upright most of the time. He's so exhausted. Bane steals a large supply of military hardware and uses it to free all of the inmates at Arkham Asylum, hoping that rounding up the various supercriminals will exhaust Batman enough that he will be able to easily defeat him. Batman arrives at the asylum where some of the inmates have taken the staff hostage. Batman frees the hostages, but all the supercriminals escape. Bane watches from a distance as an exhausted and distraught Batman looks to the heavens and lets out a savage cry of "Nyar!" As the prelude ends, it brings us into Nightfall proper. The next few issues of both Batman and Detective Comics are about Batman and Robin making their way through the gauntlet of supervillains as they struggle to keep the city safe and Batman grows more and more exhausted. There are a lot of great encounters with the villains, with some of the highlights being a standoff with Victor Zsasz, who has taken a group of college girls hostage, the ventriloquist, who has teamed up with a sock puppet named Socko to try and recover the ventriloquist's usual dummy, Scarface, and the Joker and Scarecrow teaming up to kidnap the mayor and using fear toxin to force him to make phone calls sabotaging the city, such as firing the fire department. Batman struggles to capture Firefly, who is burning down as much of the city as he can, and ends up in a situation where he is forced to let Firefly go, as continuing to fight him would have caused Firefly to perish in the fire. This is important as it is the story going out of its way to bring up the fact that not only does Batman not kill, he will go out of his way to save a villain's life if they are in danger. He takes a rare night off to attend a charity ball as Bruce Wayne and is captured along with various other wealthy men by Poison Ivy. Bane is watching this unfold, and the minute he sees Bruce, he deduces that this man is Batman. Bruce is able to sneak away from the other kidnappees and change into his Batsuit and capture Poison Ivy. The Riddler's men are sick of his gimmicks and oust him from the gang. In a moment that really explores the themes of the book, Riddler complains that with all the deranged killers that have taken over Gotham, there may not be any room or attention given to his less homicidal, riddle-themed schemes. He takes over a live talk show to get the attention he feels he deserves, but he is stopped by Robin. Batman goes after Joker and Scarecrow, who have taken the mayor to a traffic tunnel they are holding hostage. Batman is gassed by Scarecrow and sees horrible visions of Joker killing the second Robin, Jason Todd. He eventually overcomes the gas and takes out the Scarecrow, but when he gets to Joker, he begins savagely beating him, screaming out Jason's name over and over again. Joker sets off an explosion that floods the tunnel, and Batman is forced to let the Joker and Scarecrow go in order to save the mayor, once again showing the lengths he'll go to preserve human life. Seeing that his plan has almost come to fruition, Bane sends his most trusted men after Batman as one final test. Batman barely manages to defeat the three assassins, and by the end of the fight he can barely stand. He goes back to the cave, desperate for some rest. He goes into the manor and finds Alfred unconscious and Bane waiting for him. Bane and Batman stand face to face as Bane tells Bruce that all of his suffering over the last few months has been so he can rule Gotham. Bruce is shocked at how cheaply Bane values human life, and Bane tells him, you know what, I can do that better.
I'd kill for anything. I'd kill to silence a grating voice, to darken the lights in the eyes that dared look at me.
Bruce recognizes that Bane may just be the greatest source of madness and evil he has ever faced. Bane agrees. The exhausted Bruce masks up, saying, "In that case, one more time," and attacks the villain. Their fight leads them into the Batcave, with Bane trashing the trophies of Batman's accomplishments as he tosses him around. He throws him through the Jason Todd Memorial costume display and tells him to beg for mercy, but Batman tells him to go to hell. Bane decides that death would be too kind a fate for him, and he lifts Batman over his head, and in one of the most iconic splash pages in Batman history, slams him down onto his knee, breaking Batman's back. Bane drops him to the floor and declares him broken and done. Bane brings the broken Batman to the heart of the city and shows him to the people and the police. He throws Batman to the ground, claiming Gotham as his own. The cops call an ambulance for the broken hero, and Alfred, Tim, and Jean-Paul show up posing as EMTs and take Batman away, hoping to get him medical attention without compromising his secret identity. Alfred tries to treat Bruce in the Batcave, but he's running a fever and needs medication to reduce his spinal swelling. He sends Robin out to find the meds and confides to Jean-Paul that Bruce Bruce may never walk again. As the news of Bane's attack spreads throughout the city, a worried Commissioner Gordon lights the bat signal, hoping to hear from his friend. Robin shows up and Gordon helps him, no questions asked, to get the medication to save Batman's life. As Bane begins taking over crime in Gotham, Bruce mourns his loss, realizing that he most likely will never be able to be Batman again. Tim calls Chandra Kinsolving to get her to help treat Bruce, and then he and Alfred trash Bruce's car so they can explain his injuries. Bruce sees the chaos overwhelming the city and decides that Gotham needs a Batman. He considers asking Dick Grayson, but decides against it, as Dick has become his own man, and Bruce doesn't think he'd say yes. He instead chooses Jean-Paul to take over the mantle until Bruce can recover. Tim warns Jean-Paul about the huge shoes he is filling, saying that no one is as good as Bruce. In a dark bit of foreshadowing, Jean-Paul turns to him and says, "You're wrong. I'll be better." So the new Batman takes to the street. He's reckless and kind of brutal, isn't interested in detective work, loves the thrill that comes with the role, and seems reluctant to work with Robin. When the vigilante Anarchy escapes and sees Batman taking out criminals, he decides that Batman is the real problem in Gotham, as he attracts new maniacs who want to challenge him for control of the city. He plans to kill Batman, who is going after the Scarecrow, who has kidnapped and hypnotized a group of college students to act as his henchmen in a scheme to gas the city. Batman has promised Bruce not to go after Bane, which he laments, thinking that killing Bane would solve all of their problems, but he continues to hunt Scarecrow, eventually confronting him on a rooftop. Scarecrow tries to get away by forcing one of the mind-controlled students to jump off the roof, thinking that Batman will save the student, allowing him to escape. But to the shock of everyone, Batman lets the kid fall so he can take down Scarecrow. This is a massive change from the usual Batman, showing that the new Dark Knight is less concerned with protecting life than he is with punishing evildoers. It is only through the intervention of Anarchy that the student is saved. Bruce Wayne has been getting closer with Chandra, and their relationship is definitely passing professional boundaries. He considers telling her his secrets so that she can better treat him, and wheels himself over to Tim Drake's house to talk to her. He discovers that Jack Drake and Chandra are being kidnapped. He manages to take out a couple of the thugs, but is in no condition to rescue them, and they are taken. Meanwhile, Robin continues to try and work with the new Batman. He grows increasingly concerned with how brutal and reckless he is towards the criminals he's encountering as they try to gain more information on Bane. Batman is so focused on his goals that he abandons a severely outnumbered Robin in a fight and threatens to kill the criminals if they do not give up Bane. Bruce uses the detective skills that the new Batman is neglecting to discover that Jack Drake and Chandra have been taken to Santa Prisca, and him and Alfred set out to rescue them. They leave, telling Jean-Paul that the Batcave is all his. Jean-Paul has a sinister moment, relishing that the Batcave and everything in it is now his. Jean-Paul decides that he needs an edge and decides to update the Batsuit, creating intense clawed gauntlets, and uses the system to begin designing a new suit for himself. Tim laments that the new Batman is pushing him away and remembers why he took the job in the first place. After the death of Jason Todd, Bruce's Batman became more reckless and angry, and Tim became the new Robin, believing that Batman needs a Robin to temper some of that darkness. This is an important element that the story is referencing, as you must remember, the entire point of this arc is to explore how necessary certain elements that some 90s readers were considering dated and goofy, like Robin and Batman's no-killing rule, actually are to the character, by introducing a new Batman who seems to have open disdain for both. The new Batman takes his scary gauntlets and confronts Bane, telling him that he intends to kill him. Bane responds by saying,
"So, I have brought ruin to Wayne, and his neophyte brings ruin to the Batman."
Bane wins the fight and gets away. Robin argues with Batman about his extreme methods. Batman argues that the old Batman was created for older times and fires Robin. He finishes his Batsuit redesign and begins building it as Ace the Bat-Hound and Harold, Batman's mute hunchbacked tech expert, retreat from the main cave, once again showing how this Batman is distancing himself from the cheesier elements of the character. Nightwing shows up and is filled in on the situation by Robin. He is hurt that Bruce didn't ask him to be Batman, but tells Tim they must trust Bruce's decision. Batman tries out his new brutal redesigned suit and sets out to confront Bane again. Bane and Batman fight in the town square, which leads to a fight atop a train. Batman's disregard for the people around him and singular focus on taking out Bane almost causes the train to crash, but Robin arrives and saves the train and its passengers. Batman defeats Bane, and his brainwashing tries to convince him to kill the villain, but he overcomes the system and decides to spare him. Robin tells him that despite their differences, he has shown that he is worthy of the mantle of the Bat. Batman gives him a brief thanks and runs off into the night. With that, the first section of the Nightfall story arc comes to a close. I've already written and filmed the next part, so that should be coming out in the coming weeks. To make sure you don't miss it, remember to like this video and subscribe to Top 10 Nerd. And feel free to leave us a comment telling us what iconic story you'd like us to cover next in our Attempting to Explain series.